Well, hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm your host, Candace Campos, along with our producer extraordinaire, Thomas Mate.
Hello, everyone.
And a lot can happen in 10 years. Our guest today went from running a successful branding agency to starting a restaurant with 3 friends and, well, their future wives. Now the 4 of them run a blossoming chain restaurant empire with a nearly 1,000 employees. They're getting ready to open up their 12th location, by the way. And it all started right here in Orlando, in the Orlando Mills 50 neighborhood. And we are joined today by Kaleb Harrell, CEO of Hawker's Asian Street Fair. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Whatever time. This is a podcast, right?
Hello.
Yeah. So it's funny because when we first started talking to you right before we started recording, you said, I hate when people say that we're a chain restaurant.
Yes.
But I wanted to specifically say that because you guys are growing like a chain restaurant, but you're not. So give us an idea of what Hawker's is all about.
Well, and let me quantify that a little bit. So multi-unit.
Ooh, I like that one.
Right?
Okay.
Because we have more, right? We're a multi-unit restaurant. I think chain just has this stigma behind it, and it's kind of like the word, like we like to use the term structured instead of corporate, right?
Ooh, okay.
We have a corporate team, right? We are structured, we are organized, but there's a stigma around corporate chain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we try to, we're pretty big on nomenclature. I think that's a big part of culture. I think that's a big part of kind of how you get people to understand, hey, we actually are trying to do things a little differently than the rest of the industry, and that's just one little part of it. So I'm not too snooty about the chain comment.
But I mean, we're talking about 10 years that you've gone from point A to point B. I mean, and it's been a significant, growth. So kind of give us a background of how you guys all started.
Oh my gosh. How long is this podcast?
Yeah. About 20 minutes. So make it snappy.
4 beers in 5 hours, and then you get the whole story. Maybe 8 beers. Anyway. Well, it was really, I mean, the long story short is it truly is like a story of 4 guys that were buddies before this. We will be buddies after this. We're buddies now, which if you can make it through building a business together, you can make it through anything.
True.
These guys are truly family to me. And so the 4 of us had very little. In fact, we had 0 corporate restaurant experience.
Quote unquote, if you were watching.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot it for the... anyway, so we had no corporate experience, but we did have some mom and pop restaurant experience in our families. All of our families had mom and pop restaurants somewhere. For a lot of my co-founder, my buddies, it was their parents. For me, it was my grandparents. So we had we knew all the wrong things to do in the restaurant business. And I mean that with all due respect, because man, after opening a restaurant and running it in a kind of, I'll call mom and pop format, where we were literally cooking every meal, cooking every dish, open to close. I mean, the days were basically, you come in at 9 or 8, you start prepping, you prep, you run the lunch shift, you prep for dinner, you run the dinner shift. You clean the restaurant because you can't afford a cleaning crew because you're not making any money.
Right, mom and pop.
Right. And then, oh, by the way, there's got to be some moments where you're working on the business and not in the business. So from midnight to however long we could last, 3 a.m., we're up like making documentation and talking about, oh, you know what? Maybe if we move the skewers, if we swap the grill and the fry, maybe that would increase efficiency. Oh, we need to add peanuts to the pad thai or whatever it might be, right? So I mean, they were literally 18, 20-hour days, nonstop, every single day.
I mean, that
right?
sounds like a hamster wheel. Like
Open
you just
and close,
can't get out.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
The line of people never stops. So I get why mom and pop restaurants usually close 1 day a week, because it's all they have. It's like, if I don't close, I have nothing, right?
Rip
your hair out.
Yeah, exactly.
For people who don't know, who are the other founders of Hawker's? Obviously, they're not here with us. So.
They're here in spirit.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah, they always follow me on my shoulder. So Wayne Young, Wayne and I grew up together since we were, 13 years old. His family, I mean, literally, like his mom, I call his mom, like it's like that level of relationship. So fraternity brothers, best man at each other's weddings, gotten in fist fights because boys are idiots,
boys
right?
Are boys,
yeah, exactly. So that's one of the guys, and then Alan Lowe, who again, Alan and Ken. At this point, we've all just become really dear friends. But obviously, I met Alan and Ken a little bit later. So Alan Lowe is the second one. He is also our brand chef. So I would say we all have a part in the food, but Alan is really the main driver behind our menu, and he's kind of the final say so on at least the menu portion of what we do. And then Ken Ho, and Ken is just known for, and I would say this if he was right here, literally. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that he was always the guy in the kitchen. He was not real excited about being in front of guests. He's not. He's a very introverted guy, and he doesn't say a ton, but when he says it, it's very meaningful. And so we appreciate that about Ken. He's just a workhorse and an awesome guy. So yeah, 3 of literally my best friends, and I'm really proud to say that.
Yeah, and one thing I don't take this the wrong way. You're sort of the token white guy of the group.
Glad you said that, not me.
But obviously you're here. You're representing Asian Street Fair, which is very diverse. Depending on where you are, not just like throughout Asia, but in a specific country, there's different cuisines and things like that. So how does that feel for you, being among all this culture that's foreign to you, for lack of a better term?
I'm offended, Thomas. I'm just kidding. Yeah, clearly that is the case. Well, so for me, it doesn't feel that way, and it's because I grew up around this culture. I didn't know from when I was 13 till now, but especially 13 to 17, kind of in middle school, high school with Wayne and his family, growing up with that family. I didn't realize at the time how impactful that was on learning and immersing into a completely different culture than my own at such a young age, because it really became like a norm to me. It's like, I go, I speak like some very, it's bad, it's terrible, but I can like choppy like some Cantonese, and
you can survive.
When I go to the Vietnamese restaurant, right, and I order, they're always like, "Oh, your Vietnamese is very good." I'm like, "Well, I've been ordering this for 35 years, so I know it's good."
right.
So, anyways, for me, it's a little different. But I will say, when we opened Hawkers, and the guys and I have talked a lot about the kind of the feelings that we get, the experience we're trying to create. And what was interesting, that was one of the first times where I saw a little different perspective. And it was that for the other guys, what they get out of Hawkers is a feeling of nostalgia. What they get is a feeling of, this is my home. This is what I grew up. Literally, my mom made this food for me when I was 5 years old.
That's comfort.
Comfort food, right.
Yeah.
For me, what I get is a sense of travel, and I get a sense of kind of adventure. And that was what I got when I would go to Wayne's house, and I loved it. Like I've loved adventure and travel since I was a kid, and every time I would go, his mom had something new, and whether it was like chicken feet or like I don't know, it's just some of the craziest stuff, right? And I'd be like, "Oh, this is awesome! Let's try it." And she used to jokingly say, I think it was a joke, that I'm more Chinese than Wayne is, because Wayne was like, "Well, I want like chicken tenders and spaghetti," and I'm like, "Give me the chicken feet, give me the slimy chicken, give me right." So
yes, you were like the adopted son for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you guys are sitting around drinking some beers, and you say, "Hey, let's open up a restaurant." I mean, how did it all come to fruition?
Yeah, so really, we diverted somewhere, but basically,
it's okay. It's a podcast. We can do that.
Can we do that? Can we talk about Cheetos or something weird?
Yeah. Oh, later.
All right, cool.
You need to.
So basically, the 4 of us met serendipitously. That's another whole podcast on how we met. It's a really funny story. But anyway, so Alan and Ken were friends prior to the 4 of us getting together, and Wayne and I were friends, right? And so we all met, and we immediately hit it off. We're like, man, these guys are cool. Yeah, these guys are cool. And this was kind of right after college. Actually, I guess it was in college, but right after college is when we really started hanging out a lot and spending time together. And it was that time period where we were making just a little bit of money, right? More than college money.
Right.
And we didn't have any responsibilities. We didn't have any families to spend it on. So it was just like we were spending it as fast as we could make it. And we all spent that disposable income on travel and on experiences. And the travel always revolved around food.
Right.
And I think it's a little self-righteous to dub yourself a foodie. But I would say, and I don't even love that term, but I think that just for the sake of this description, I would say that we were probably foodies before that was the term, right?
Yeah. You're saying you don't like that term, but you're going to be in a camera shot with that word.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
The whole time.
Self-proclaimed foodie. Here I go. But, it's kind of like it can be overused and things like that, but I think that there is a place for it, right? But anyway, so we... So yeah, we would travel all the time. Every time we would travel, the focal point of travel would be around the food. And it was like, basically, let's plan out our meals, and then we'll try to do some sightseeing in between meals.
Love it. I'm going traveling with you guys next time.
And usually it would look something like, if we went to, I don't know, if we went to New York, or a better example would be if we went to like Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Like we went to KL, we would get off the plane, we would go see either a relative, or we would go to a bar that we felt like we'd find somebody that spoke English. And we would ask them, hey, we want to find curry laksa. Where's the best curry laksa in KL? And they would say, oh, you got to go over to this food hall, blah, blah, blah. You got to go to this hawker center. And we would go there. We would try it. Oh, my gosh, this is great. And then that afternoon, we go to another bar or another relative, and we get more advice. Hey, we tried this place. Where else should we go to find curry laksa? And especially in Asia, and especially on those trips, the food culture is just there's so much pride around food culture, right? And the closest thing I can relate it to in the States would be like barbecue for us, right? And so it's kind of like,
get that.
And maybe in Florida that's not quite as opinionated. But if you go to like North Carolina or Memphis or St. Louis,
there's a difference.
There's only one type of barbecue, and if you say differently, you're gonna get kicked out of the restaurant, right? And that's kind of how it was. Like it's like, no, this is where the best curry laksa is, and don't tell me differently. And so we'd go on these travels. We'd have this incredible food, these amazing flavors, and then we would come back to Orlando. And a little bit, you know.
This is 10 years ago.
It's 10 years ago, yeah. And there were some folks doing things really well at the time. I don't want to take it away from like the Petrarchus, you know, like there was folks that were Norman Van Aken, like folks that were really doing good stuff, but they were harder to find back then, right? And so specifically, I would say on the Asian front, there was not a ton. There was a few things that were really good, but not a ton. And so we would talk about like, man, why isn't somebody taking all these authentic, amazing flavors that are truly authentic to Asia and introducing it to kind of the average American palate? And we saw an opportunity there and talked about opening a restaurant. And I always thought it was just kind of a joke, like, oh yeah, we should do that one day. Okay, I'll see you. I'm gonna go to my marketing job at my desk, and in the air conditioning. And one day in 2010, Alan called me and he said, hey, and this is just climbing out of the Great Recession, right? So he called me up and he says, hey, I drove by this spot on Mills. We happen to have a connection to the owner of the building and the business. I think we can get into it relatively inexpensively. They're not doing it so well. They're kind of trying to get out. And what would you think about starting the restaurant? And
holy crap!
I said, absolutely not. No way. What are you, crazy? I don't want to start a restaurant. No way, man. You work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. There's a line around the building, right? 5% of restaurants make it, essentially. It's 1 out of 10 make it the first year, and then 1 out of 10 of those make it the second year.
Well, so those aren't good chances.
Horrible odds.
Yeah.
So I was like, no thanks, man. I have restaurants as clients. I'm good, but best of luck, and you're crazy. A couple weeks later, he called me. And he said, hey, man, I got Wayne and Ken here. I was like, oh, hey, guys. And he was like, yeah. And the FOMO started setting in. And they're like, hey, listen. And I can remember Alan saying, like, look, man, you're my boy, so you're going to be helping us out anyways for free. You might as well just like...
oh, peer pressure. I like this.
Throw in a little sweat equity. You'll never have to lift a finger. This is more air quotes.
Yeah.
You'll never have to lift a finger. And of course, the next thing I knew, I was learning to cook on the walk and running the line, and it was awesome. I wouldn't trade those early days for anything. That was honestly the most fun, was the very beginning.
Yeah, and I read on your company website that you guys also had your girlfriends at the time, now your wives, working the front of the house.
Wow, they stuck around.
How did you calm them into that?
I don't know. I don't know why they stuck around. I can remember, I won't name names, but there was a few ultimatums thrown out there at some points.
I believe
during
it.
The early stages.
I believe it.
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was a big, heavy lift, but we all did it. We were all stronger through it. And I remember when we first, the day before we opened, we literally didn't have enough money to buy chairs to fill the restaurant. I mean, we started this thing on,
oh my gosh,
like nothing, guys. It was nothing. I sold my truck to contribute my part of the business. Yeah. So that
makes
tells
me
you.
Sweat. I'm so nervous.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, let's go to IKEA. Let's buy as many chairs as we can. And we're we're cranking the chairs down and putting them together.
Put them together because it's IKEA.
As customers are coming in the door, they're like, oh, hey, welcome. Here you
Welcome.
and,
Build your own chair.
Grab an Allen wrench.
Yeah. Couldn't afford a sign on the building, so we put a banner up because banners were a lot cheaper, and nobody told us that you had to have a permit for a banner for any kind of signage. So that was fun to deal with like 3 years later. Shout out to City of Orlando. But yeah, it was awesome. It was crazy. It was hectic. It was brutal. But it was, I mean, it's the best time I never want to have again.
Right. I get that. I get that. Okay, so we were clicking the fast forward button. We're now 10 years down the road. You guys are a little older. And you guys are bigger, not physically. I'm just saying, like,
we are.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, the business is bigger. So we're talking about 12 different locations outside of Florida. You started with one at Mills, and now, I mean, what has that growth been like?
Oh man, it's so hard to even sum that up. It's just, I think just learning is the word that comes to mind. It's just been constant evolution and constant learning, and it's been. There was never a light switch moment of like, hey, we got it. That never happened.
Yeah.
It was and I would say, I would argue that there's a lot left to learn too.
Of course, yeah.
But it was very much I think you have, anytime you start a business, and especially a business as difficult as a restaurant business, you have to love the journey. And that's something I found pretty early on. I think the other guys would say the same. I know they would, is that we love the journey, and if you don't love the journey, it's too hard. You're not gonna stick with it.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah,
if that's the case. Yeah.
I mean, frankly, you could have made the first 6 years doing this. I could have made a lot more money, a lot easier doing something different, right?
Yeah.
But I loved what I did every day, and I continue to love it even as my role changes, and it has changed. I mean, drastically. I went from the fry cook to the CEO. It's a pretty different day-to-day roles. But
Back in the air-conditioned office, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. But yeah, I would just say just lots of experience along the way, lots of trial and error, lots of good mentorship, and some folks that have spoken some truth that really landed well. And then also some things that we thought to be true that we learned, we want to do things a little differently. And that's been kind of we have a mantra: be disruptive, always care, never compromise.
Oh, I like that.
And so that kind of encapsulates really what Hawkers is about. It's about, we want to disrupt the industry. We want to ask the hard questions like, are employees being treated fairly in the restaurant industry? What does true hospitality look like? How can you make money but still create a place that people want to work at? Like all those are the things and we're very transparent about that with our team. And then always care, pretty obvious, right? We are in the hospitality industry, so it's about caring, but it's also, again, that speaks to our team too. It's about, caring about them as individuals, but also holding them to this super high level of accountability. And then the never compromise is just, we're just never going to settle for anything less than perfect. So it's an infinite game. You have to love the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the answers to those questions? Insofar as these are the questions you're going to ask. What's the Hawker's answer?
As far as employee,
taking care of your employees and things like that. Obviously, right now
it's been rough.
Yeah,
it's been rough for hospitality
throughout the pandemic, and then there's all these worker shortages, and people are ascribing a lot of different meanings as to why this is happening. So, where are you guys as that stands?
I think that there was and maybe continues to be an epidemic in the restaurant industry of. I don't know if it's necessarily just underpaid. I think that I'm sure that's a component of it, but I think just an underappreciation many times. I think that, and I don't think that was just solely driven by the employers. I think that any of these questions that we ask, just like, and I believe this about politics and about economics, right? If there was a silver bullet answer, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be on board. These are very complicated questions that require very complicated, thoughtful solutions, or at least potential solutions. But I think, in general, I think that it's historically been a transient workforce. Historically, the majority of the workforce has not been career oriented. It's been more of a, hey, let me take this job and then I'll go on to the next thing later. And that has driven to maybe some underappreciation from the employers. I think what we're trying to do is create a place where people can really build a career and understand that, hey, this can be a very lucrative career. many of our managers are making six figures. That's not uncommon at all. And I would say that's probably for a lot of successful restaurant companies, at least the ones that we associate with. But to me, it really boils down to it's less about dollars and cents. I mean, I'd love to say that we instituted a $15 minimum wage, and that was a big deal for our company. And I would love to say that that's the silver bullet. But I think that is just one criteria, one factor that's kind of encapsulated under this umbrella of be an employer of choice, be a place where people want to go to work every day. And I still do orientations for every new manager that comes on board. And one of the things at the end of the orientation, there'll be anywhere from like 3 to 10 managers. And I'll put 10 telltale signs that you have the hospitality gene, and I'll put it on the screen. And I'll say, I want you to read these 10 signs that you have the hospitality gene, which are things like, I love helping people, I love serving people, I love smiling, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, now, each one of you, I want you to answer, like, all or most of these relate to you? Can you relate to these things? And if not, maybe you're in the wrong industry. And let's figure that out now, and that's okay, right? Because if you want to be an engineer, let us help you. Let us promote you to guest and help you be an engineer, right? We're happy to do that. But if this is the place for you, if you do love hospitality, then let's dive in together and try to get you, to the best place possible.
Yeah, that was something similar that Mike Calantes from Taglish Collective talked to us about. He said the same thing, where it's just like, not only, obviously said appreciating them and compensating your employees fairly, but recognizing where they have, aspirations and diverting them towards those. If they think they would work better in HR, put them towards HR and things like that. Yeah. If they're already, working line cook or something to that effect.
And I think your answer, honestly, that's the reason why you guys have been so successful. I mean, if you think about it, you're going from 10 years, opening up almost what seems like a restaurant a year. I mean, you have to have that type of, that feeling of people wanting to work for you. So that certainly says a lot about the management too, which is great. Hawkers, what is it about? Well, what does Hawkers mean? What is Asian street fare?
Well, literally, Hawkers is a street vendor in Asia, right? So you go to Asia, the best food, as I said, is on these hawker stalls. You go there. If the three of us went, it's sort of like almost like a food court type setup. If the three of us went, we would each go to a different stall. Each one of the stalls specializes in 1 or 2 specific dishes. They go and get their local indigenous ingredients every morning, bring it back, and create those dishes.
Oh, wow.
And we would all go to a few stalls, grab 2 or 3 dishes apiece, bring it back to a communal table. And then again, this food-centric culture, we would eat the food, share the food, talk about the food. Hey, this is great. Hey, that was terrible. All right, let's go to the next hawker center, right?
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny, when you were saying before, you were talking about the curry laksa specifically, that's my wife's favorite thing to get at Hawkers when we go there every single time, like clockwork.
Yeah.
She'll still look at the menu and be like, maybe
pretend
I'll try
to
this.
look.
Yeah, exactly. It's like giving the curry laksa.
Her heart goes to that. Yeah.
It's my favorite dish. I love it. And we just ended up subbing the noodle out for a ramen noodle now. So it's like a curry laksa ramen, but it's just a little bit different texture noodle. Oh man, if you haven't had it in like the last few months, it's even better. It's delicious.
Well, I'll have to go back then.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't know all about Hawkers yet, what's that feeling like when you walk in? What's the ambiance? What's that feel that you want your customers to have?
Yeah. So again, just as every other part of our business, of our restaurant has evolved, the experience and the vibe is what we call it, has also evolved tremendously.
There's no poster board.
There's what?
There's no banner.
Oh.
Banner.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
No banner.
No IKEA furniture.
Yeah, correct. No, all the IKEA furniture broke like 3 months in, to be clear.
Makes sense.
Sound investment.
Yeah, the not for commercial use on the side of the box, that's a real thing. Good
to know.
Yeah. So as it evolved, I mean, and I'm coming to a very fun answer for you, but the new Hawkers, the ones that are opening in Dallas and Charlotte and Nashville and DC and whatever, it's really transporting our guests to the streets of Asia. And so we have neons on the wall. We have it's kind of a dimly lit restaurant. It's bar centric. The bar is always in the middle of the restaurant, so it's high energy. It's loud. We use a lot of posters, which kind of emulate the almost like the propaganda posters or the ads that you would see wheat pasted across the streets of Asia. I mean, we've really done our best to make people feel that they have literally been transported to the streets of Asia. Backing that up, Mills Avenue, right, the very first one, doesn't quite feel that way. It feels a little bit like four guys that didn't have any money, that literally did it with our bare hands. But excitingly, we're gonna get a $1 million renovation at Mills.
No way!
At the end of this year, yeah. So we're very excited about
That's huge.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like
what's awesome.
So
Right. That was news to us.
yeah, absolutely. So I've been to the Mills location. It's so when you walk in, there's that small bar right to the left, and then there's kind of like a little narrow passage to the dining room, and then it empties out into the patio area. And the kitchen's somewhere back behind like the bar and stuff like that. Yeah. How's all that going to change?
Oh, I'm not divulging that.
You're not divulging that?
Okay. No way. You guys got to wait. You got to wait for the big reveal.
Yeah.
Come on.
You have to come back to Florida Foodie or invite us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Do the show over there when we'll do it.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, okay, so when's the construction going to start? Can you at least reveal that?
I honestly don't have a date yet, but it will be... we will at least be in construction at the end of this year, so it's coming. It's coming quickly, and I mean it's kind of a.
I'm assuming you guys are going to close for a little bit.
We'll have to close a little bit. Yeah. It shouldn't be as bad as you think, but we'll definitely have to close for a few weeks probably. But it's something that, quite honestly, we wanted to do last year. Right, and things.
What happened last year?
Yeah. Tell us more.
I don't know if you heard about it, but. But anyways, we pushed it about a year, and we're just really excited to be able to give back to Orlando what they deserve, which is the ultimate. It really will be. It will be a flagship location. It's going to be the ultimate Hawkers location, and that's what our Mills fans deserve. I mean, we have just been. I still am floored and humbled by people that just love our restaurant and come in and compliment us, and it's like. Man, we're just serving food. Like we're just making good food that we like, and it's so cool that other people like it too. Because that's really, truly how it started. It was like, hey, I love this dish. Do you want to put it on the menu? Yeah, I love it too. Let's put it on the menu and see if anybody else likes it. And most of it stuck. Stinky tofu didn't make the cut, but most of the other stuff.
Stinky tofu? Oh God.
Most of the other stuff stuck. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, and I always ask at the end of the podcast. I said, "What's your favorite dish?" But you already told us.
Curry laksa.
Yeah.
If you had a number 2, though.
There you go.
I don't see chicken feet on the menu, so not that.
Menu.
I was going to ask about chicken feet.
Gosh, that's tough. Can I give you like 2 through 4?
Okay, sure.
All right. So I would get here. I'll give you this.
I'm going to write this down so that way when I go.
This would be my meal. This is my check. Like if you looked at what my guest check is, it would be an order of the Korean fried chicken baos. It would be
I can already picture
an
it.
order of beef skewers with our house-made kimchi. It would be a curry laksa, and it would be pan-seared dumplings. That would be my.
That's a good batch.
And I would not be able to finish all of it, but I'd try my best.
So would you say that's the best way to go in? Is that sharing feel?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Over ordering is by far the best. But yeah, no, sharing and absolutely, it's how this food is meant to be eaten is shared, and I think it's just a fun thing when you can go in and order multiple dishes to be able to share the food and again to talk about it and like, oh, I love that. Hey, hand me that. And a couple of things we get out of that. One is it's a time for us to be able to put down our phones, right? I mean, that's kind of we look at dining as the last frontier of human connection. This is like the last place, right, is the dinner table where we can actually not stare at this and have a conversation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's true.
It is true.
Sorry to all the people who are listening to this on their phones.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just don't be listening during dinner. That's all we ask.
Just pause, have dinner. The other thing that's cool is that scientifically, you could argue, right, that it's a better dining experience to have small plates than it is to have an entree. And here's the reason.
I totally agree.
Here's the reason.
Always.
There you go. You can take this to the bank and cash it. Every time your palate is introduced to a new flavor, endorphins are released. So you can imagine when you're going through that steak, right? The first 2 bites are amazing. By the end of it, you're like, all right, I'm kind of just done with this.
Yeah. Just going through
But when you go to small plates, tapas or hawkers or whatever, and you're trying multiple things, you're constantly, right? Those endorphins are constantly getting released, and you're like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is great.
So you're basically saying that like eating small plates is like working out. the same.
Yeah.
I mean, more or less, yeah.
Yeah.
It's scientific. It's not me.
This man's a Scientologist, clearly.
All right, so where can people find you? Obviously, Mills. What's your social?
Yeah, eathawkers.com, at eathawkers on Instagram, and then we've got our Mills location across from Track Shack. Shout out to Track Shack. Woo!
Yeah.
That's been our icon for mapping for the last 10
Everybody
years.
knows. Everybody knows it.
And then we have one in Windermere as well, which is over on Conroy Windermere Road at the corner. I think I covered it. Is that everything?
And then 12 other locations. I mean, 12 different
And if you're
locations.
traveling, look for them. Every location has a very unique build out. They're not cookie cutter at all. So
nice.
it's fun to go and kind of see the different locations and see how we've evolved the concept. And I won't spoil it, but there's really fun little Easter eggs in every location that we put in from a design standpoint.
Can't wait for the renovation, though. That's going to
Gonna
be
be
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, for talking with us, and of course, give all the best to all the buds, too.
I will. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep the hair going.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I have the shortest hair here.
Thank you for listening to Florida Foodie. We'd also like to thank our guest Kaleb Harrell, CEO of Hawkers Asian Street Fair. You can find Hawkers online at eathawkers.com. You can also search Eat Hawkers on Facebook and Instagram. You can find Candace Campos on social media. She's on Twitter, just search @CandaceNews6, and on Facebook, search Candace Campos News 6. Also, a big thank you to our technical producers, Derek Mosier and Ryan Haley. I'm the show's producer, Thomas Mates. Florida Foodie is available to download wherever you get your podcasts. Please take the time to rate and review us. You can find videos of all of our podcasts at clickorlando.com/podcasts. And to keep up to date with all the latest foodie news, head to clickorlando.com/FloridaFoodie.